We'll come to our comfortable seat here. I love a morning like this when the sun is so bright through the window that I have to actually close the shade. That's a good sign for some sunshine today. Hope that you guys get the chance to go outside. I hope it's sunny wherever you are, wherever that might be. All right, so we'll start in that comfortable seat. The hands can rest comfortably in the lap, or they can be placed on top of the thighs, and the eyes can gently close. We'll bring length to our spine. Check to see if those shoulders are hunched around the ears. If they are, they can relax down the back. You can slightly tuck the chin here to bring length to the back of the neck. It's as if the crown of the head is gently pulling us up. And for the next few breaths, you may simply follow that breath to ground you in the present moment here, to prepare ourselves for our practice this morning so that we can be fully present, not worried about the past or anxious about the future, but fully here right now. Just follow your breath for the next few breaths. And then you might simply set an intention for your practice today. Maybe there's something that you want to accomplish or get out of your practice this morning. Whatever that might be, bring it to mind. Hold it in your mind for a moment here. Maybe you say it in your mind. And then with that intention in mind, you can slowly open your eyes and we'll start out in our tabletop position. So in our tabletop here, the shoulders are directly above the wrists and the hips are directly above the knees. You can start out by taking some cats and some cows. So we're rounding the back and we're letting the belly fall towards the ground. You can do this at your own pace. Sometimes it helps if we synchronize these movements with the breath. You might close your eyes here, as that can lead to some more organic movements. And then when you come to a neutral spine, we can make some circles with our hips. You might start out in a clockwise direction. And then you can reverse your direction. And then we'll come back to that neutral position. And we're going to simply let the toes tuck and the hips lift as we find our first downward facing dog. So we're just getting started out here. So take it easy as we settle into our practice. You might pedal out your feet. Other movements that feel good, go ahead and take those. There can be a nice bend in the knee as we get started. And let's come up onto our tiptoes, and then let's send the heels off to the right, creating a nice stretch in the left side of the legs. And maybe we take a deep breath in, and we send that breath to the areas where we're feeling that stretch, areas where we're feeling any tightness. Then we can return to center, and then we'll send the heels off to the left, this time creating a stretch on the right side of the legs. Maybe you feel it in the hips here. And then we'll return to center, and we're going to simply walk the feet, taking tiny steps until our feet meet the hands at the front of the mat. And we'll find ourselves in a forward fold. So we can hold on to the elbows here for a ragdoll if that feels good. You can simply let the head hang heavy. Maybe you even sway from side to side a bit. Sometimes with these first forward folds, I like to take a nice deep bend in the knees and let my chest or stomach just kind of rest on the thighs. And then you can take those hands and you can bring them behind the back and either hold on to the elbows or maybe you clasp the hands behind the lower back. And then maybe the hands float away from the body, creating a nice stretch in the shoulders and the upper back here. When you're ready, you can unclasp the hands and then we'll slowly slinky roll up to a standing position. Hands can rise up towards the sky. And then as we exhale, the hands come into the center of the chest. Let's come into our mountain pose here. So the feet are just about hips distance apart. The hands are alongside the body. You might tuck the tailbone slightly, bringing length to the spine. Notice if your shoulders have crept up around the ears. If they have, just roll them back down the back. And maybe you close your eyes here and just scan your body. Notice how you're feeling. Connect your mind with your body. Sometimes we disconnect during the day. Let's bring that connection back. And then we'll take a sun salutation. So we'll inhale the arms to rise. Exhale into a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale back into that forward fold. Another sun salutation. Inhaling arms to rise. Exhaling hands to heart center. Inhaling arms to rise. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale to that flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Let's do one more sun salutation. Inhaling arms to rise. Exhaling hands to the center of the chest. Inhaling arms to rise. Exhaling into that forward fold. Inhale to a flat back. Exhale, forward fold. And now let's bend the knees so that we get those hands down on the mat, and we're going to step the left foot back, step the right leg back, and we're in our high plank. And let's just hold here for about 3 breaths, trying to create a nice straight line from the heels all the way to the crown of the head, feeling the strength of the arms and the legs as they support you here. One more breath in, and then as you let the breath go, we'll lower down to the mat. And we're just going to take a baby cobra here. So the hands are alongside the shoulders and the gaze is downward. So again, we're feeling that length in the back all the way through the crown of the head. As we just take a very gentle back bend here, breathing in and breathing out. And then we'll push back up, let the hips lift and find our downward dog. We'll let the right leg lift and we'll open the hip up into a 3-legged dog. Maybe we make some small circles here with the ankles. And then we'll place that right foot between the hands. The back heel comes down and we're in our warrior 1. Taking it slowly here. Feeling that strength in that back leg. Notice where your body is in space, making any minor adjustments as you need to. Feeling like your chest is opening towards the front of the room here. Breathing in and then breathing out. And then we can take the arms and we can either hold on to the elbows behind the back or we can clasp the hands behind the back. And we're just going to hinge at the hips here to come into our humble warrior. Only going as far as feels good for you. Tucking your body into the inside of that front leg. Breathing into the stretch. And then we'll simply bring the left hand down to the mat. The back heel comes up and we're going to take a twist. So that right hand is floating up towards the sky. We'll bring the right hand back down to the mat. We'll step the right foot back and we'll simply let the hips lift as we come back into our downward dog. This time the left leg lifts and we're going to open up into a three-legged dog on the left-hand side, making circles with the ankles or the hips. And then to find our warrior one on the left, we'll place that left foot between the hands, the back heel comes down, and the hands lift towards the sky as we settle into our warrior one here. Feeling the strength of that back leg, making any minor adjustments here, opening the chest towards the front of the room. Check to see if those shoulders have hunched up. If they have, relax them down the back. And then we can reach the hands behind us, either clasp onto the elbows or we'll clasp them together behind the lower back, and we'll hinge at the hips as we find our humble warrior. Again, only going as far as feels good for you. And now the right hand can come down to the mat. The back heel comes up and we'll take our twist to the other side. Feel that strength of the back leg. Feel that line of energy from the bottom hand all the way up to the top hand. And then we'll bring the left hand down to the mat. The left foot meets the right, hips lift, and we're in our downward dog. This time the right foot lifts. We're going to place it between the hands, and we can come into our runner's lunge. Now, if it's a little challenging to keep the hands on the mat between the feet, you might bring something, blocks. I have a couple of rollers here that you can use as well, just to bring length to that spine as you come into your runner's lunge. And then when you have that nice straight back, you can start to shift your weight forwards and backwards here. And then as we find that neutral position, the back knee can come down, and we're going to shift our weight backwards into our halfway split. There can be a nice bend in the knee here if that's more comfortable for you. Notice if your hip is above the back knee as it should be, and then simply fold over that front leg. As you take some deep breaths here, visualize that you're sending the breath to those areas of the body where you need it most. And then we're going to find the long edge of the mat as we come into our wide-legged forward fold. Once again, only going as far as feels good for you. You can have something underneath you if that makes the stretch a little more accessible. And then we'll take a twist here. So we'll place the right hand underneath the face and the left hand can float up towards the sky. The left hand returns to the mat, and this time we'll take a twist to the other side so the right hand can float up towards the sky. And then we're going to shift over that left foot, so now we're facing in the other direction, and we're in our runner's lunge now on the left-hand side. And again, we can shift our weight forwards and back to create a nice stretch in the back of the leg. Notice how the areas where you feel that stretch change when you shift your weight forwards and backwards. And then we can simply bring that back knee down as we shift our weight backwards and we come into our halfway split. It can be a nice bend to the knee here if that feels good. And then we're going to come back up and we're going to swing that left leg around so that we're in our tabletop position. We're going to simply bring our knees so that they're max distance apart, and let's sink back into our child's pose for a few breaths here. We'll come back up into our tabletop and push back up into our downward facing dog. The right leg lifts. We'll place that right foot in front of us, and we're going to come into our low lunge. So the back knee can come down to the mat. The arms can either be above us towards the sky, or they can rest on the thigh, or they can come down alongside the body. I'm not collapsing into the lower back here, but opening the chest towards the front of the room, or maybe even towards the ceiling here. And then we're going to bring the left hand to the inside of that front foot. The right hand comes to the inside of the thigh. We can gently push the thigh away as we peek over that back, the right shoulder here. Then we can bring our hands to the inside of that front foot and either stay right here, feeling that nice stretch in the hips, or we can come down, we'll roll onto the outside of that right foot and come down to the forearms for a lizard pose. Getting just a bit of a deeper stretch here in the hips. And swing that right leg around so that we're back in our tabletop. Hips lift, and we'll come back into our downward facing dog. This time the left leg lifts, and we'll place that left foot between the hands. The back knee comes down, and we're in our low lunge on the left-hand side. Once again, hands can either rise towards the sky, or we can place them on the thigh or alongside the body. The right hand comes to the inside of the left foot, and we're going to just place our left hand on the left thigh and gently push the thigh towards the left, peeking over that left shoulder. We'll bring the hands back to the inside of the left foot, and we can either stay right here, or we can roll onto the outside of the left foot and come down onto our forearms for a lizard pose. We're going to come back up to the hands, swing the left leg around. So we're back in our tabletop position, and we're going to take the right hand and point it towards the front of the room. The left foot comes behind us, and it can either stay on the ground, or maybe that left foot floats up off the mat, and we have a nice line between the left heel all the way to the tips of the right fingers. Holding here for just a couple more breaths. We can bring the hand back down to the mat, bring the knee back down to the mat, and we'll take our tabletop twist. So the right hand floats up towards the sky, and we'll thread it underneath the left arm. The left arm can either stay in front of you on the mat, or maybe you take it into a bind. We'll come back up into our tabletop. The left fingers will point towards the front of the room. The right foot comes back, and either we can keep it on the mat, or we can let the right foot float up. And we have a nice balance here. Holding for just another breath. The hand comes down, the knee comes down, and we'll take a tabletop twist on the other side. Once again, that front arm can either be in front of you, or you can bring it around the back for a bind. Maybe you close the eyes here. And then however you want to get there, we'll push back up into our tabletop and then come into a seated position. So we'll bring the right leg straight in front of us, and we'll start with a side bend towards the right. As you're taking your side bend, feel the twisting of the torso upwards towards the side of the room, or maybe even towards the ceiling. Again, only going as far as feels good for you. And then we'll take the left hand, place it outside of the left hip. The hips will rise as we push up into our fallen star. The hips return to the mat, and we'll take a forward fold over that right leg. And there can be a nice bend in the knee here if that feels good. Walking the hands forward until you feel that stretch. And we'll rise back up, and we're going to take the feet and place them in front of us, not right next to the hips, but a little distance from the body so that we come into our starfish pose. And we can either stay upright here, or you can take your hands and thread them underneath the calves and then place the hands on top of the feet and take a forward fold in our starfish. And then we'll rise back up, and then we'll lengthen the left leg in front of us, take the right foot, place it to the inside of the left leg, and we'll start with a side bend over towards the left. Place the right hand to the outside of the right hip. The hips can lift, and we find our fallen star. Hips return back down to the mat, and we'll take a forward fold over that front left leg. Again, there can be a nice bend to the knee here if that feels good. And then we'll rise back up, and we'll take a double-legged forward fold. So both legs are long in front of you. You can walk the hands forward until you feel that stretch, until it feels like it's the right time to stop, and just hold it there, sending the breath into that area where you feel the stretch. Maybe slowing the breath down here, coming towards the end of our postures. And then we can rise back up, and we're going to lower down onto our back here. We're going to take just a couple of gentle bridge poses here. So for the bridge pose, the knees are bent, the feet are flat on the mat, and then you can let the hips rise. And you can either stay here, or maybe you clasp the hands behind, underneath the lower back, feeling a nice stretch in the back here, maybe in the glutes as well. Lowering back down to the mat. You can windshield wiper the knees here, left and right. We'll take one more bridge pose like that. So we'll let the hips rise up off the mat. Again, if it's comfortable for you, you can clasp the hands underneath the hips on the mat. Holding here for just a couple more breaths. And we'll let the hips return back down to the mat. We can hug the knees into the chest and rock back and forth, giving ourselves a nice little lower back massage. And then you can let the knees fall off towards the left as the right arm comes out, and your gaze can be over that right hand. Again, maybe it feels good to close your eyes here and turn your attention inward. And then we'll take the knees and we'll send them off to the right as our left arm comes out and our gaze is over that left hand. Then we'll return to center, place the hands underneath the hip, and let the feet rise up towards the ceiling. Taking a nice deep breath in, and then letting it go. And then when you're ready, we can find our final resting position, which is Shavasana. So the legs are slightly apart. The arms are alongside the body with the palms facing up. And simply notice here any sensations that you're feeling. Maybe you're feeling a sense of peace and calm that washes over your body here. Just allow that to happen for the next few moments. You might allow the breath to deepen as you invite some small movements back into your body here. Wiggling the fingers and the toes. Gently rocking the head from side to side. When you're ready, you can roll over onto one side, keeping the eyes closed here. And then we can push up into that seated position. Again, keeping the eyes closed just for another few moments here. And you might bring to mind the intention that you set at the beginning of your practice. Maybe you can carry that same intention over to the rest of your day or to the days ahead. And with that intention in mind, you can gently open the eyes and return to the room where you are. Once again, thank you for joining me this morning. I hope that you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.